In the heart of Test cricket, a revolution is unfolding. For ages, we've known Test cricket for its traditional approach, conventional technique, and most of all, for its grueling test of patience. But things have changed dramatically in the past year. There's a new style on the block. It's unorthodox, it's daring, it's aggressive, it's Bazball. Cricket has witnessed its fair share of revolutions before. We have the bodyline tactics of the 1930s, the birth of one-day matches and World Series cricket in the 70s, the mass appeal of 2020 cricket, and from there, the unstoppable rise of franchise cricket. But now, Test cricket is witnessing another evolution in the form of Basball. But first, let's take a look at what started all of this. Under Joe Root's captaincy, England cricket experienced a string of poor performances. From February 2021 to 2022, England lost 9 matches and won just 1 out of 17. This included a humiliating 0-4 record against arch rivals Australia in the Ashes. But the final straw was a series defeat against West Indies, after which Joe Root stepped down from captaincy. England cricket was at its lowest. They needed to make some drastic changes. And so the England Cricket Board did just about what any other sports team does when they're down. They fired everyone.
Breaking news coming from the world of cricket. Chris Silverwood has been sacked as England head coach.
Huge breaking news. Joe Root has resigned as the England men's test captain.
Former coach Chris Silverwood was replaced by the young and dynamic Brendon Mccullum, and in a surprising turn of events, the limited over sensation Ben Stokes was chosen as the new captain of the Test team. And since then, England has not looked back. Under this new era, the term Bazball, coined by Cricinfo editor Andrew Miller, has since dominated cricketing discussions.
Bazball was
Basball. They call it Basball.
But first, let's rewind a bit. Scoring quickly is nothing particularly new in Test cricket. Even now, the record for England's fastest Test century was scored over 120 years ago. And when we look at the highest strike rates among Test batsmen, given all the buzz, you'd imagine Bazball players would be dominating at the top. Instead, retired Stuart Broad sits at 16th, and coach Brendon Mccullum sits snug at 19th above any dedicated Bazball batsman. It's not until 21st place that we spot a genuine Bazball batter. What's even more shocking about these rankings is that above the entire Bazball team, including their coach, we have 3 batsmen who have played over a century ago. And few fans of this era would be able to guess who the highest on this list is. India's Virender Sehwag, over 8,500 test runs under his belt at an unheard of strike rate of 82.23. His brutally attacking batting allowed India to maintain #1 test ranking from 2009 to 2011. And the highest ranked player from this decade is actually India's Rishabh Pant, whose quick scoring was absolutely crucial for India to win back-to-back test series in Australia. And so, all of this begs the question, what makes Bazball so unique in the first place? While these previously mentioned individual player stats are pretty noteworthy, and they do stand out in the context of their teams, Bazball is truly in a league of its own. Under Ben Stokes and Brendon Mccullum, English batsmen aren't scoring at a high rate here and there. They are scoring rapidly as an entire unit, game after game, innings after innings. Historically, Test cricket's run rates have gradually grown from 3 runs in the 1900s to about 3.3 in the 2000s. Steve Waugh's legendary Australian side, with the highest win ratio of all teams, had been the quickest scoring at 3.66 runs per over. But Bazball absolutely shatters this record with an insane run rate of 4.85. And that's just the average. Take a look at England's 74-run win in Rawalpindi last December. Across both innings, they scored 900 runs at a record-breaking run rate of 6.73. But to understand this massive influx in run rate, we have to take a look at the strike rates. Since June of 2022, the average strike rate of England's top batsmen has increased by a whopping 46%. Johnny Bairstow leads the pack, converting a previously modest strike rate of 54 to a whopping 89.48. And Ben Duckett isn't far behind, jumping from 58 to 89. For reference, in this period of Bazball, Bairstow and Duckett across 20 innings have maintained higher strike rates than the career one-day strike rates of ODI greats like MS Dhoni, Steven Smith, Babar Azam, and they're just shy of the career record of Rohit Sharma. And what's even more shocking is that this dramatic increase in strike rate is somehow accompanied by an even larger increase in batting averages. The batsmen's averages have increased by an unbelievable 71%. I mean, Bairstow has nearly doubled his average and Ben Duckett has more than tripled. And these standards are being passed on to newcomers as well. Harry Brook's entire Test career has occurred under Bazball, and his career stats are unheard of. He's the quickest batsman to 1,000 Test runs in terms of balls faced, and he has an insane strike rate near 92, with a Test average of 62.15, which, if you don't know already, is the highest Test career average after the legend himself, Donald Bradman. How is it that English batsmen have been risking a faster strike rate in the toughest format, all while somehow achieving even higher batting averages? There seems to be two approaches that have been allowing them to thread this delicate balance. First, under Basball, the English have adopted the limited over tactic of targeting specific bowlers. Instead of bashing just any player that dares to bowl at them, the English batsmen minimize risk by selectively attacking certain bowlers they feel more comfortable against and playing more traditionally against the more threatening ones. The second and more nuanced way England has been able to maintain a higher batting average while upping the strike rate is through risking something called batting control. Batting control is a measure of how convincingly a batter plays each delivery. Mistimed shots and misses all impact control negatively, while middled shots and successful leaves add to a higher control percentage. The reasonable assumption is that teams with more control win more often, and we've seen just that. In the past 5 years, 71% of wins have been from teams with more batting control, but Bazball completely flips the script. In matches where their control percentage is lower than the opposition, England boasts an insane record that reads 8 wins and 4 losses. This 2-to-1 win-loss ratio is 11 times higher than all other teams. I mean, this kind of trend just leaves us dumbfounded. How in the world is England pulling this off? The devil is in the details here. When we examine England's strike rate on deliveries that they were in control of, they're pulling off a sky-high strike rate of 84 compared to just a modest 55 for all other countries. In other words, under Bazball, England makes the most out of deliveries that they are in control of, and somehow that excess that they generate makes up for the risk that they take on. But how? I mean, they can't just be riding their luck every game. What happens when the batters are not in control of their shots? Well, the old adage about positive intent really shines here. Only 1/4 of England's false shots come from defensive play, compared to 40% for other teams. And England is rewarded significantly for this. They score considerably higher on false shots as well, 3.56 runs per false shot as opposed to 2.94 by all other teams. On top of that, all of this attacking cricket and positive intent throws the opposition off. It forces them to spread out the field to plug the leaking runs. And fewer fielders in catching positions means less opportunities to take a wicket off of edges. This all leads to English batsmen surviving false shots more often. They survive about 16% more often than their opposition, to be exact. So by adopting this aggressive and positive style of play, England have been able to strike this great balance. One where they are able to maximize opportunities that they are in control of, and also benefit considerably off of shots that don't go exactly as planned. England has managed a significantly higher volume of runs per dismissal, all at a much faster pace. Bazball takes advantage of this rapid scoring to make some bold decisions. Who could forget when Stokes did something absolutely unheard of? Just when we thought we'd seen all of Basball, Ben Stokes pulled this new trick out of his sleeves in the Ashes. He declared the innings on the first day of a test match. At that time, Joe Root had crossed a century and was looking comfortable smashing Lyon, and the team run rate was cruising at above 5. Yet, Stokes decides that instead of taking another day to pile the runs on, now would be the perfect time to stop and let Australia bat. Why would he do something so absurd? Well, another essential component of Basball is forcing results. Stokes wants to make the most out of scoring quickly. England isn't playing 5-day-long matches to add another draw to the stats table. Stokes would much rather risk it all than see no result. In fact, Ben Stokes has already declared 4 times before reaching 110 overs in a span of just 14 tests. This rate of early declarations is absolutely ridiculous, faster than any other captaincy ever. And the strategy actually pays off. Out of the over 2,000 test matches played in cricket history, almost 1,200 have ended in a draw, meaning after a grueling 5 days of test cricket, more often than not, a match will have no winner. But with Bazball, fast scoring and early declarations almost always guarantees a result. Out of 17 matches of Bazball, there has been only one draw, and that too because of rain, giving us a 94% chance of a result. And they've won almost 71% of matches, making Ben the second most successful test captain in the world, just behind the legendary Steve Waugh. Compare this to pre-Bazball and you wonder why England hasn't done this sooner. Ben Stokes doesn't care what you think. He knows the Bazball method works. But what's turning these forced results in England's favor? There's something we haven't talked about yet. Something so crucial to Bazball's secret sauce that without it, entire strategy would fall apart. All those early declarations have given bowlers more time to work their magic, and their performances are nothing short of magical. Across 12 matches and 23 innings, England's bowlers have consistently managed to take all 10 wickets, a feat bettered only by South Africa's golden years. On top of that, across the past 4 captaincies, Ben Stokes' team has averaged the lowest bowling average and strike rate. And the majority of English bowlers have achieved their peak averages during the era of Basball, with Woakes and Wood experiencing the most dramatic improvements. Interestingly, despite the bowlers having much more overs to take wickets, thanks to the aggressive declarations, they're dismissing batsmen for even fewer runs and deliveries than ever before in their careers. And looking at the economy helps us understand how. While the bowling average and strike rate have gone down, the economy has slightly rose, indicating that the English bowlers haven't been afraid to risk leaking runs if it means they can take a stab at getting a wicket. And Stokes has doubled down on the aggressive intent, setting extremely attacking fields and sticking with them even when boundaries are being leaked. So even in the bowling and fielding department, Basball isn't afraid to take risk, and they've been heavily rewarded for it. It's become clear that Basball embraces risk-taking and aggression, taking it to levels never before seen in Test cricket. And the numbers have shown that it's been paying off. But stats are one thing. Is England's Basball really here to stay? The toughest challenge for Bazball was undeniably their home series against the dominant world test champions, Australia. The recent Ashes was one of the most enjoyable test series of late, as we saw the ultimate clash of traditional test cricket versus Bazball. Spoiler alert, England was not able to win back the urn. But despite that, after being down 0-2 in games that were extremely close, the team came back with confidence in a decisive third match win. Mother Nature didn't favor Bazball in the 4th game, as we saw Bazball's first draw in a match that England was surely set to win. And in the last match, England was able to equalize this series with the help of some heroics on the bowling side. And while Australia retained the Ashes, all anyone could ever talk about was England. England's innovative and risk-taking approach proved to hold its own against tradition. And if you ask me, I'd say it definitely was a moral victory for England's cricket team. But looking beyond the Ashes, if you want to witness the impact of Bazball, you don't even have to look at England anymore. Look at everyone else trying to adopt this new standard. India in the 3rd innings of the second test match in West Indies smashed 181 runs in just 24 overs at a run rate of 7.5, setting a test record. India also shattered a record for the fastest team 100, smashing 100 runs in just 74 balls. They declared the innings after just 24 overs and were all set for a result were it not for rain. And Pakistan, having lost its previous 6 games, debuted its new aggressive approach in the Sri Lanka tour. In the first 87 overs of their first innings, Pakistan scored at a run rate of 4.34, and after bowling out Sri Lanka for 166 in the second match, they took it even further, scoring 145 runs in under 29 overs, with the run rate going up to above 5 per over. All of that, with some aggressive field settings, handed Pakistan a massive victory by an innings and 200 runs. But the next biggest test for this style of play will be England's upcoming series in India, where the pitches are notoriously difficult for visiting teams. Will India answer England's sensational play style with tradition, or will it try to fight fire with fire? And with the lead of their pace attack Stuart Broad retiring, will Basball continue to bowl out their opposition? We look forward to the clash, but with Basball having been around for over a year now, it's undeniable that this style of play is far from being a fad or gimmick. Since appointing Baz and Ben, England has held its own against fierce competition and ushered in a paradigmatic shift of dominance. Follow that by other teams looking to replicate England's success, and you have nothing short of a proper revolution in cricket's most traditional format. And I'm all for it.